Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the weekly financial roundtable, and forgive the awkward start. We are in week number 53. Remember, money's not the most important thing in life, but it's like oxygen on the gotta have it scale. And in the crazy world that we live in, taking this time each week to address financial related issues and opportunities is a good thing. So thanks for joining us. And I've seen the chat. Hello, everybody. Some of my favorite people out there. So Roundtable is sponsored by Qnity. We're here to take what's complicated, confusing, and overwhelming and make it simple for a more direct path to prosperity. We've assembled a brain trust. We have several members of the brain trust that are joining us today as listeners and viewers. And this week, as our guest, we have Nathan Lawless. He is the CFO for Floyd's, which is a company based out of Denver, Colorado. With multiple location of high-end barbershops across the country, perhaps beyond the country. That's one for Nathan. We'll get to that one. Last week, we had Robert Passage from Pivot Point. I loved last week's session because I've always wanted to add Robert to the Brain Trust, just like I've wanted to add Nathan. One of the things that we did last week that I'm so excited about is we introduced and finally made it public about our financial success training that will be available to students. Only 25% of students and 20% of parents say they're prepared to deal with the financial challenges that await them after graduation. We went through a content preview, and our goal is to help provide this education so when they enter the workforce and they come to you as owners and leaders, they will be well prepared for a very prosperous career that's going to benefit everybody in the ecosystem. So really excited about that last week. Past recordings are posted in the Plan for Profits portal. They're also on YouTube. Just a quick reminder, if you are eligible to be part of the 2 to 10 project and you received an invitation, please register. We are in the final stages of wrapping up our attendee list, and we're soon going to start our annual study. It's October 4th and 5th. You have to have multiple locations, at least 2 locations to be part of this. There is a link that we provided to allow you to register and book a room. Rooms also will fill up. These rooms are normally like $425 a night, and our rate is like $210. So I cannot wait to get back together. Anyway, we're hoping that you have some light bulb moments today. We do furnish a Qnity 9 grid to track your own light bulb moments. And with that, I will stop sharing and I will say good morning to Nathan. Good morning, Nathan. Let's get you off mute. First of all, there you are.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Well, how are you, Nathan?
I'm well. As I put in the chat, I think I'm technologically challenged this morning.
Oh, you're all good. You're all good. Thanks for joining us. You know, I was on with Phil Horvath, who's the CEO of Floyd's. I've known Phil for many, many years, big industry contributor and CEO of Floyd's. And I said, geez, I know with all your connections, Phil, you've got to have some CFOs that could be great guests. And they said, well, yeah, I got one basically down the hall. And then so you and I got to know each other. I did find my notes, Nathan. We talked way back in May and got to know you a little bit. And then here we are today. And so thanks for being our guest today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here, and hopefully I can offer something that helps the community. So
yeah, no doubt you will. And so I'm looking at your office and I'm kind of struck by those boxes in the background. You look like you have
so we relocated in December, and yeah, I've been that busy that I haven't gotten through all the boxes from the move yet. So it's on my list before the 1-year anniversary hits. I kind of feel like it's when you move houses, you know, I mean, you kind of got a year to unpack. So.
Right. Well, excellent. So let me set a context for our audience today. Okay. So I'm speaking to all of you. So the whole idea, it was back, I think, maybe in June, I did a segment on CFO's role in capability building and the importance of developing new skills in your company, and how the finance leader is so important, more important than ever. And capability building is not necessarily something that usually happens for the finance department. They get left behind. And as I mentioned to Nathan, most of you are small businesses. I know several of the owners here, and you are by default wearing that chief financial officer hat. And here we got a pro on here like Nathan. And so Nathan, you could talk about so many different subjects. You got a wealth of information. And what I want to center this on is really more the entrepreneurial CFO function, including some lessons for our audience who, like I mentioned to you, is they might have one location, they might have up to 10. They're not as large as you, most of them. So things they can take out of it. So anyway, let's get a quick sketch of your background, because you've been in this industry a really long time, right?
Yeah, I have. I mean, so my family's been in this industry 35 years. I've been in it personally probably for, I guess, 10 now. And it's been 8 to 10 really challenging years, right? My family grew their salon business over kind of a 30-year period. And the challenges are the same, except magnified, right? And the more shops you've got, everybody thinks it gets easier, and really, no, it gets harder. And so I think, hopefully some of the insights, as we like to joke as a family, we've tried to screw it up every way you can in this industry so we could write a book on things not to do. But hopefully I can share some of those experiences with you today and really help you understand whether you've got, one salon or 10 salons, some easy things that you can do to kind of help yourself and really where to invest your time.
So your background, you've got the street credit of working for one of the big CPA firms, Ernst & Young. You've worked for larger companies. You've worked for a franchise. You got a really so you got the skills. There's no doubt that you have the skills of a CFO that many people on this call would not have. And you also have taken those skills into Floyd. So let's talk about Floyd's just for a minute. Based out of Denver, how many locations, all of that?
Yeah, so Floyd's started in Denver. The company was founded in 1999. First shop opened early 01. We still have the original location. It's our Broadway shop in Denver. It's still one of our top 10 locations. It's something the brothers are really proud of, kind of the longevity. And, we are what you would call in the premium category. So you think of the value category as being kind of $25 and under, your gray clips, your super cuts, your sport clips. We are a premium experience. So, for example, kind of in Chicago or LA, we're going to be, $31 to $35 for a haircut, men's haircut. And we offer the full range of services. So everything from kind of rock star colors, which my daughter loves, her hair is currently bright pink, to, straight razor shaves, face shaves, head shaves. And Floyd's was really built around music and individuality. So, the brothers came from a concessions background when they founded this. They had another company, and none of them liked the haircut experience they got. There were three brothers, and each one had kind of a different thing. And so, Floyd's was kind of founded on the ethos that we really cater to the customers. And so today we have about 127 locations open, of which 77 are corporate, roughly 50 are franchise. And we've never actually actively franchised. It's probably one of the oddest things about us being the size we are, and then having the franchise base we do, is it was really kind of friends and family. So this year will be the first year where we really actually launch a campaign to actively franchise.
Gotcha. Awesome. Now, some of the things, so you said something, and that is most underinvest in time and money as it relates to the finance function. And maybe expand on that a little bit. And then the other thing I want you to touch on is that what are the type of things that a CFO would do? And so let's say I'm an owner and I'm also the CFO. What are the things that I might not do or might fall by the wayside that a CFO would do if they were a CFO in a company?
Right. I mean, the first thing I'll tell you is that everybody has a CFO in their business, right? It may be you, it may be your spouse, right? If you and your spouse are both actively involved in the business. But fundamentally, somebody owns not only the financial reporting, but the banking relationships, the insurance relationships, the facilities relationships, your vendor relationships. And when you think about what a CFO kind of does, the financial reporting is only one part of it, and it's really the smaller part. The relationships and the physical plant footprint, the maintenance, and your key capital relationships. So whether it's investors or whether it's a bank, fundamentally, that's really the job of the CFO. And I always say that, most of my time is spent looking 6 months to kind of 2 to 3 years out. I don't spend a lot of my time looking on the past, except to understand what the value drivers are in my business.
Stop right there. You had like 3 or 4 things. I just want to put exclamation points now. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Number one is what you just said is everybody has a CFO by default. All right. And that's the premise here. Number 2 is the last thing you just said about looking out into the future. You're right. So many finance functions and small businesses they're barely are able to get the numbers like on time, right? Like, let alone do the kind of stuff that you're doing, looking out into the future. Let's go there a little bit more about the planning and decision making.
Yeah, I think number one, right, it's the most important thing you're going to do for your business, because it drives all your other decisions. Where do I want to be in 6 months? Where do I want to be in a year? Where do I want to be in 3 years? It frames how you look at real estate, right? Do I need a bigger facility? Do I need a facility in a different location because the neighborhood's changed?
Mm-hmm.
And it also really frames how much time you spend on your different relationships. For example, I'm a 6-shop operator. My 3-year goal is to go to 10. And I know I'm going to need a financing partner to do that, right? So I need to really focus on my relationship with however I'm going to finance it, whether it's my bank or whether it's an investor or whether it's personal capital.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also need to find and really focus on how's my current business operating? Am I at the level where those people are going to invest in me? It's a different story if you have 1 or 2 locations and that's all you're going to have. Then you're looking at your own 4 walls going, okay, do I need to do a refresh? When am I going to plan it? I operated in the Midwest for a number of years. Flooring has to be replaced kind of every 5 years, thanks to salt and snow. And so, when you think about shutting down a shop and replacing the flooring, and, when you do that, you're going to take the stations off the wall, paint, do some other things. Okay, it's going to take a week, maybe 2. When do I do that? Well, I don't want to do it during my busiest season, right? How do I plan with my staff for that downtime?
Right.
So I think the forward-looking part, especially in a really entrepreneurial environment where everybody's trying to do, they're trying to wear 6 hats, that's probably the part that gets missed and people don't invest enough time in.
I totally agree. Yeah. You also mentioned something that, so we don't create this mindset with our participants, those joining us today, that they need like 1,000 people for this. You used a phrase, I love this one, not at Floyd's, but another place that you were at that had multiple franchise locations. Mm-hmm. I think there were 64 locations, and you said you operated thin but not bare. I like that. Thin but not bare. You had 3 people. So we're not necessarily saying go out and increase your head count. To me, it's more about capabilities.
Yeah, and that's where I said people tend to underinvest, and I don't want to say penny wise, pound foolish, right? Because it's all money coming out of our pockets as owners.
Mm-hmm.
But there, I ran 64 Great Clip salons over a disparate geographic area, Indiana to southern Michigan and border to border in Indiana, east to west, with myself, an accounting manager, and an HR payroll person or a payroll AP person. And what I did is I paid for the skill set. The accounting manager made really, really good money because I got somebody that could handle the volume. And the same thing with the payroll and AP person. Payroll is the one thing you can't have screwed up for your team. And I tended to handle all the real estate, the facilities, the IT, and then reviewing the financial statements. I spent maybe 20-25% of my time on that, and the rest of it's relationship based, and then the physical plan. And it surprises a lot of people, being a CFO, But the finances and kind of the past, the scoreboard, if you will, is only one small component of it. And so, what I encourage people is, if $10,000 in spend on an accountant makes the difference between you getting the books in 30 days and you getting the books in 15 days, spend the 10 grand, because the extra 15 days where you're not going through the pain of trying to get numbers, you can spend on the future. And that 2 weeks a month, it's 26 weeks a year that you can spend on your business for $10,000. I mean, you got half your life back to focus on growing your business.
I think that's a lot of wisdom in that. And to your point, sometimes I pick a topic because it's very fresh for me. And I work with a lot of companies where they're retooling their finance department. And I'll give you a real common one that is so dated and it kind of drives me nuts. And that is that the numbers, the financials don't get released till the end of the month or a month later. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons is because the bookkeeper is waiting for the mail to receive bank statements or credit card statements. And they wait and sit there tight instead of making entries throughout the entire month. And the other thing is, pet peeve of mine, Nathan, sorry, I'm going to get to the other thing, is they fail to take advantage of their existing technology and have dated systems. Great example is in QuickBooks. Instead of using like an auto feed from the bank, mm-hmm. they enter everything manually, and it kind of drives me crazy. I'm done with my rant.
No, I mean, it's true. It's the other area where technology has been a great help. And quite frankly, it's gotten so much better and so much cheaper that really invest the time as an owner to help your team help you. And so it's one of the things that I've done at every stop, no matter the size of the organization, is I take a really hard look at the systems. How can we get data to flow automatically? Like you're talking about, QuickBooks enables a bank feed. Perfect example. It also enables credit card feeds. So you can actually feed in, if you put a lot of your things on American Express or anything else, it can feed that in. And I think, it's important to understand and maximize the technology you're paying for. It's also really important to analyze, do I have the right platform? What am I paying for here? Especially if you intend to grow, it becomes a much different animal when you have 6, 8, 10 shops than it is when you have 1 or 2. You can get away with doing a lot of things manually at 1 or 2 that you simply can't do at 10. The same thing's true when you grow to 20. And my family always talked about it in terms of breakpoints, and other franchisees that we would interact with would talk about it in terms of breakpoints. There's a breakpoint at kind of 6, right? When you have to hire your first district manager, where you actually have to have somebody who can do a lot of the day-to-day, because you as the owner need to keep focusing on growth and on other things and on relationships and how do you invest your time, right? There's another break point when you hit kind of 15.
And this would be for more the type of model that you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about any salon owner, right? So,
gotcha.
So say you have you family built a small chain of shops. Kind of a rule of thumb in anything is that you can only really have about 6 direct reports, right? So think about every manager you have of your salons, right? They all need time and attention and development. And you only have so much to go around in addition to all the other things you're trying to do as an owner. And so it goes kind of back to the, A, is it you and your spouse or just you? B, what are you willing to invest in to be able to continue to grow your business? And at some point, there are certain breakpoints where you have to invest differently in technology and people to allow you to spend your time where you need to grow. And again, the challenges don't really get easier; they just change.
Yeah, it's interesting. Use the 6, and we could get into a deeper dive on that. I've seen 3 for really, really high headcount businesses, but I want to move on from that. I want to touch something else. You mentioned something yesterday. You got this broad base of skills, really amazing skills. You said, yeah, but I'm not tax. I use outside tax. It reminded me of something I wanted to mention to our audience to get your comments on. I started out my career working at a firm as a CPA. Then I became a CFO. I didn't know what I didn't know. I thought because I was a CPA that I could just go in and be a CFO. And so here's a little message for all of you out there. Just because you have a really good CPA, it doesn't mean they know about CFO type functions. I learned that like, blood, sweat, and tears. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different job, right? I mean, when you think about what I described earlier as to how I spend my time, only about 20% of my time is on what you'd call financial reporting or accounting.
Yeah.
There's another discipline called financial planning and analysis, which is more forward looking, again, planning, right? That I spend a pretty good chunk of my time on. I spend about 20% of my time on real estate. We're always looking at existing locations where leases are coming up. Do we need to renegotiate? Do we need to move the shop? I mean, again, we've got some shops that are 20 years old. Areas demographically change. Centers change. Landlords choose not to invest, and somebody opens right across the street from them in a much better, fresher center that the population actually wants to go to. So, I guess I didn't say it, but just, everybody can look at our FDD and know our average unit volume is 700 customers a week, roughly, for a mature shop. We'll do about $1.1 million in AUV a year out of one of our shops. So these aren't, from a volume perspective, these aren't small shops, and relocation decisions, right, aren't small. So I spend a significant amount of my time there, and you as an owner, right, would spend a significant amount of your time going, God, should I relocate this location? Is this center better? Can I grow another 20% over the next 10 years if I move this? And, I sweat those same decisions, but that's a skill set you're not going to get with a CPA. None of the real estate, none of the negotiation. I mean, they can do some basic analysis. CPAs are really good at crunching numbers. But those kind of decision models that you have to kind of work through are unique to CFO and unique to that chair. So.
All right, Nathan, I feel like I could talk to you a lot longer, but I promised you, and I want to thank you. You stepped out of a leadership meeting to be part of this today. And so I know there's probably in a room adjacent to you where people are carrying on without you. So to keep with my promise, I got 26 after the hour. Any final words to the group here?
I think, what my perspective, again, coming from an entrepreneurial background, my family's all entrepreneurs. I was the one that I went and got big company experience and then came back to this kind of environment because I love it and I'm passionate about it. If there's anything I can answer for anybody, please don't hesitate to reach out. Tom's got my contact information. And I think what I'd share with you is, really step back and think about where you invest your time and where you're investing dollars and why. Because it's really easy, especially as an early entrepreneur with one or two or three locations, to get caught up in the day-to-day, I've got to go fix this sink and I've got to go do this and I've got to go do that. And before you notice, 6 months have passed and you haven't thought at all really about where your business is going. So really think about it as an investment of your time and of your money, because your time is your money. Fundamentally, currency of any type is a medium of exchange, and somebody's giving it to you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you so much. You've got some comments, some nice comments that were put in the chat you might want to read before you take off. I am pleased to present you with the official $1 Million light bulb. Sam Bricata says great contribution. Robert Cromian's Amanda Hare. So thank you again. I appreciate it, Nathan. I've been
Thank you so much for having me.
And we're going to see you on the school roundtable a little bit later. So you and I aren't done for today, but thanks again. Okay.
No problem. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so let's see here. I am going to do something if I can figure things out here. Here we go. Yeah, I'd love to see if you guys have any comments about that. This whole thing about being a CFO by default and is so true. But before I go any further, who the heck is on the call today? Let me see if I can give some shout outs to people. All right, so who do we got today? We have Amanda. Good morning, Amanda, and Anna and Ann Wheeler. Hello, Ann and Ashley. Hi, Bonnie. Glad you joined us today. Hello, Colleen and Jan. Hello, Jana. Joe and Karen, good to have you. And John, great to see you on here. Hello, Karen and Carrie Bennett. Hello, Carrie. Kelly Powell. Good morning, Leon. Glad you joined us. Hi, Linda. Nice to see you on here. Same, nice to see you, Lisa. Hello, Linnell. Good morning. Hey, Mark. Megan, Melanie, Melissa, Melody. Oh, Mike Reynolds. Hi, Mike. And Robert Kermins. Hello, Robert. And Roman and Sam Mercado, Sam Johnston, Terry McKee, and Tracy and Trent. Some of my favorite people out there. All right. I've got just a few more comments on this subject before I move on here. So okay. All right. So finance. I call finance the fifth function. And if you're involved with Qnity at all, or 2 to 10, et cetera, you know that we look at the business under the lens of 5 different functions. And that's education, it's marketing, human capital, operations, and finance. And finance for many is the fifth function. It's the one that you struggle with the most in terms of finding the right help. And put in the chat if you agree with this, or feel like you're just not at it at the same level of the other functions. And part of the reason we do these roundtables is to help people get through ceilings. And I just want to give you some comments. Some ceilings that I see is talent. That we have the same talent, the same person's been doing the same job for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and that's wonderful. Longevity is amazing. But they haven't had any change in skills. They haven't had new education. They haven't really learned new features in Excel and QuickBooks, and it really falls behind. And the sad thing is many owners don't know what they don't know, because this is they're not really necessarily aware of what best practices are in the industry. And as a result, the finance function gets failed to be integrated into basic decisions. Most decisions in the business will have a impact on the finance function. So the other piece that I find to be a big miss is not looking out in the future far enough. Certainly the 8 seasons calendar allows you to look out several seasons ahead. And and when you look at changing parts of the business or getting deep into some very significant decisions like compensation planning, bringing in a key employee, or bringing in a partner that's a key employee, or opening up a new location, the analysis piece becomes so important. So that's another reason that we're doing this. And then to Nathan's point, he spends most of his time in the future. In most small businesses, it's really just keeping up, just spending time in the past, just getting the numbers out. So, so those are just some final thoughts on that. And then I am going to give you a few more final thoughts here, just some reminders. One reminder is, if you're joining our Plan for Profits guided group, our first session will be Monday. We have done some kickoff calls over the last week. If you want to be part of this group, we're pretty much reaching the end of the line here to be part of a guided group. I'm personally taking a group through the profit curriculum, and we're also introducing some new things, such as a one-page executive financial summary, a new way to look at the P&L, as well as tips on key employee compensation, et cetera, that has not been part of the curriculum. I've already mentioned 2 to 10. Again, the dates are October 4th and 5th, with a kickoff on October 3rd. If you are eligible to be part of 2 to 10, you have multiple locations, please sign up, because we are getting full and we are starting to study. We do have an emerging leaders group. These are leaders that are under the age of 35. We already have several people that requested to be part of this. And we have a competition every year for the emerging leaders. Also, we've got our coaching. We've got our coaches out there that are helping many of you. Take advantage of them. If you want to book a free coaching session, feel free to do that. We'd love to spend time with you. And we are going to have the school roundtable coming up in an hour and a half. Nathan will be back on. If you were on this roundtable, we're going to cover the same things during the school roundtable. That's more for a school owner and manager audience, but just heads up, that's happening. And I'm going to end with all progress starts when you tell the truth. And so I will end with that. And then also another thing, I just love this little phrase here that I'm going to share with you as my closing words. And that is this: in a moment of happiness is always a good place to catch yourself. So I hope we find you happy today. I hope you learned something from Nathan. We're going to keep today's session nice, tight, and short. Michelle will be back next week. So we will be having a session next week. And then 2 weeks out, we're going to take a week off. I am going on vacation, and I'll tell you where later if anybody cares. But anyway, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next week.